global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them. Crises precipitate change.
Secretly plotting your demise. I want to devise a virus.
Hello everyone, Darko 2012 here with Global Government News, and I am covering an article from the Daily Bell, thedailybell.com, and it says, as Bell predicted, IRS plane attack hits freedom. And this is a pretty good article. It's kind of long, but so I may not be able to get to all of it. I'm going to just try to blitz through this because it really looks good. And I'm reading this for the first time with you, so here we go. The Time magazine said, the long, rambling rant posted on a website eerily reflected the angry populist sentiments that have swept the country in the past year. In it, a Joe Stack invade against intrusion Big Brother government, corrupt corporate giants, irrational taxes, as well as the puppet George Bush. I choose not to pretend that business as usual won't continue, he wrote. I've just had enough. I can only hope that the numbers quickly get too big to be whitewashed and ignore, that the American zombies wake up and revolt. And then, Stack apparently got in a Piper Cherokee P-28 at about 9:40 a.m. at an airport in suburban Austin, Texas, and flew the plane into a commercial building housing an IRS office, among other offices, killing himself, seriously injuring two people on the ground, and starting a conflagration that lasted several hours. And that was from Time magazine. And it says, dominant social theme, too much talk of freedom leads to terrorism. Free market analysis. That didn't take long. The tragic incident of a man flying a plane into an IRS building in Texas almost immediately conjured up articles in the mainstream press expressing concern over the violent impacts of libertarian and free market, quote, rhetoric. The Joe Stack apparently set his house on fire with his family in it. They barely escaped and then flew a plane into a building, but the mainstream press doesn't seem very concerned with the human dimension. It is the rhetorical arguments that fascinate. Here's some more from the Time magazine story that was obviously rushed into print on the internet anyway. I wonder if they kind of had an idea about what was happening, like the FBI, who showed up less than 5 minutes with a special response team at his house to put out the fire, according to neighbors, and the fire department, who just coincidentally, according to an eyewitness on a video I posted from local news around in Texas, said that, oh yeah, it was kind of weird. The fire department with a hazmat team was doing something right across the street here, so they kind of responded really quick. So, who knows? Maybe it's like Oswald, where they start putting out all the talking points across the world before it's even he's even been arrested. And it says, after the fireball, the black glass windows blew out and the Venetian blinds started flapping in the wind. The building houses regional offices of the IRS and other federal agencies. And of course, they're not going to tell you that there's other agencies, because then they want it to be all about the IRS, right? Think about it, guys. Think about this. Why would they seclude the IRS? Yes, he had rants and all that stuff, but he talked about a lot of stuff, not just the IRS and taxes, right? He's talking about Big Brother. That's CIA. He's talking about the NSA. He's talking about all the other stuff. And that's why they don't mention this, because they want everybody to focus on this, on taxes, on tea parties, on taxes, on tea parties. That's what I've kind of come to conclude in the past day. It says, as one unidentified office worker from the building said, quote, if you have problems with the IRS, this is where you come in person to work them out. According to news reports, 199 IRS employees work in the building, and all were accounted for. Toward the end of what appears to be his final note, Stack wrote, well, Mr. Big Brother, IRS, let's try something different, take my pound of flesh and sleep well, and see the making of the Tea Party movement. The White House was quick to say the incident was not a plot by overseas terrorists, but was it terrorism nevertheless? In his note, Stack was very clear he was unhappy with the U.S. government. He complained about the onerous, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, and merciless taxation of individuals like him, as well as corruption and the special treatment the executives of big corporations allegedly received after their companies failed. And it says he seemed to be as emboldened as any suicide bomber. I like that. Allegedly received, right? They won't tell us where it went, right? We note that the Time inserted the parenthetical comment, "See the making of the Tea Party movement," into the middle of the article. We think it's sad from a strictly human perspective that the article and others like it rushed into print yesterday don't seem to provide us with much of the human dimension for this tragic tale. There's not much on the IRS workers in the building, some of whom were badly injured, not even an expression of concern. Yeah, that was kind of weird. I noticed that too. And certainly no tears are shed for Stack or his family. We say a little prayer for those involved. Time magazine, perhaps because of the deadlines involved, goes directly for the socio-political jugular. The article focuses predictably on the connection between Stack and almost inevitably the larger irresponsibility of those involved agitating peacefully in the U.S. for the return to limited government. But what does that encompass? Are they truly radical stances? Less war, less killing, fewer taxes, an end to mercantilist central banking, the fraudulent central banking, private central banking system, Federal Reserve System, and generally a less crazy way of doing things. Here's what we wrote on February 17th, 2010 about the possibility of this sort of violent action occurring. Again, we don't believe necessarily that the powers that be are contemplating a false flag event aimed at President Obama or anyone else, but these are desperate times in America. Indeed, a violent act or acts could be committed by a person or persons that could then be linked to the exploding free market movement in this country, one that includes the Tea Parties, Ron Paul, etc. We hope nothing like this happens. Forewarned is forearmed, with ideas, not weapons. So look at that, guys. That's amazing. And let's just look in here and see what exactly if what they're saying is accurate. And we go here. Look at this, February 17th, false flag to discredit Ron Paul. So check that article out, guys, because I'm going to post the link to it. And it says here, despite negative feedbacks we've gotten on the issue, we believe we are correct to make the points we've made. It's obvious to us recently that attacks by mainstream press against the Tea Party freedom movement have been ratcheting up, which are right. They're definitely right about calling them racist. We've seen, what does it say? We've written several articles about it recently because we, like our readers, saw the signs that many in the established political system and mainstream media has simply had enough of the agitation of the free market rhetoric. Yes, it seemed clear to us from that point of view that the powers that be, the movement was steadily gathered steam and the rhetoric was growing steadily stronger. For this reason, we believe if there were to be some sort of violence, the mainstream media, at the behest of a larger American establishment, would attempt to make the linkages described above. And I'm not going to go into that, but yeah, I definitely covered all this as far as the other articles. New York Times carried a description of the dead, and certain feedbackers wasted no time in making linkages below. Tea Party movement stokes frustration and moves the fringe farther to the right. I think this is a matter of reaping what has been sowed. People like this do not act unless they feel they are plenty out there who will be inspired by their actions. First act of Tea Party terrorism? Wonder how long it'll take Glenn Beck to defend this guy. And no, he didn't defend him. He actually called him a possible radical constitutionalist or a communist. It's time to speak out loudly against this fringe before more die and they gain real power. Ooh. So there you go, everybody. Long article. I really want to get to the rest of it, but I recommend you checking it out. I'm actually going to do a separate video on how this website basically called it. They called it February 17th before it happened, and exactly what would happen. So kudos to the Daily Bell. So thank you.